In this video, you'll learn about subject-verb agreement in English. First, we will review the basics of subject-verb agreement. Then we will look at some common causes of confusion: distance, compound subjects, collective nouns, singular indefinite pronouns, and countability. Don't worry about these grammar terms. We will explain them as we go. Subject-verb agreement means that the subject of a sentence, such as I or she, agrees with the main verb of the sentence. The basic principle is actually quite simple, as long as you can identify the subject. This table will remind you of first, second, and third person, as well as singular and plural. The table on the screen shows two examples of the simple present tense. Notice how the base form of the verb changes for the third person singular he, she, or it. This rule also applies in the present perfect, where we choose have or has depending on the subject. It also applies in continuous tenses, such as the present continuous or past continuous, where we have to choose the correct form of the verb be. If you find it difficult to decide which form of the verb to use, a good tip is to substitute the noun for a pronoun. For example, for research, use it. For the authors, use they. Let's practice that. What pronouns could you use in the following sentences? For your assignments, we could use the pronoun they. For Australia, it. And for Sarah and I, we. In the last example, studying is a gerund. It looks like a verb, but it is working as a noun, and we can use the pronoun it. Did you get them right? If so, then you shouldn't have much difficulty with subject-verb agreement in basic sentences. Of course, not all sentences are that simple. Let's look at some more complicated situations. One of the most common challenges is the distance between the subject and the main verb. For example, Newton's first law of motion states that a body in motion stays in motion. In this sentence, even though the noun motion is closer to the main verb states, the subject is the noun law, which appears earlier in the sentence. Sometimes you need to look back in the sentence to identify the subject. Don't assume that the subject is the noun just before the verb. If you find it hard to identify main verbs and subjects, try the exercises below. Now let's look at compound subjects. That is, when a sentence has two subjects. For example, the tutor and the student are discussing the lesson. In this sentence, the tutor and the student together mean they, so the verb needs to agree with they. So we can say are discussing, not is discussing. The next example combines a positive and a negative subject. With compound subjects like this, the verb agrees with the positive subject. Next, let's look at collective nouns. These are words like group, crowd, team, and committee. These are words that refer to things that have been grouped together, but grammatically they are considered as one thing, like it. So we would say, the group meets every Tuesday in the Multi-Faith Centre, and the committee has approved the funding for the event. Now let's turn our attention to singular indefinite pronouns. These include another, one, everyone, anyone, anybody, anything, everyone, everybody, everything, each, no one, nobody, nothing, someone, somebody, something, either and neither. Because these words refer to only one thing, the verb should take the third person singular form. In other words, it works like the pronoun it. There are 4 factors. Each affects the pricing of the product significantly. This is still true when there is a distance between the subject and the verb, as we saw earlier. Each of the 4 factors affects the pricing of the product significantly. Notice that the verb affect takes the third person singular form to agree with each rather than factors. Another area affecting subject-verb agreement is countability. If a word is uncountable, the related verb will be in the third person singular form, like it. For example, the information in this book is irrelevant, but the students in this class are punctual. This is still true when quantifiers are used. All the information in this book is irrelevant. All of the students in this class are punctual. For more on this topic, see the video on countable and uncountable nouns. This video has introduced you to how to recognize the subject of a sentence, the form of the subject, and some of the challenges with subject-verb agreement. Now try some of the exercises below.